Yes. And I request
Okay, sir.
everyone.
Take on, sir. You are.
Yes.
Yes.
So I request everyone to actively participate in the discussion that we are having today. Because I didn't want to start with the introduction to radiology part, as it will be slightly boring in the first class itself. So I thought like I'll start with the X-ray physics. Okay. So you might find very confused why we are teaching physics. The main thing is it's asked in the NEET. Okay. Very commonly asked questions in the NEET has been coming from the physics part of it, and these questions are very easy to answer. Okay, whatever the questions that are coming in the NEET are from the physics are very easy to answer than compared to other part of the radiology. So it is always better for all of you guys to understand the physics, so that all these easy questions can be easily answered. Okay, that is the first point. The second thing is, if we understand the physics well, we can answer so many questions from the diagnostic as well as from the imaging point of view. Okay, so let's go into the topic proper. Today's is the X-ray physics. So this is how a X-ray looks. Okay, so there are various structures that we can see, and very important is that in an X-ray we can see very few densities. Okay, so X-ray works based on the principle of the attenuation. Okay, so there are different structures. It might be a solid, it might be a liquid, it might be a gas. Okay, so there will be solid, liquid, or gas. The different structures are having different density. Every matter has density. So whenever an X-ray pass through solid, if I send 100 X-rays, only 10 might come out of it. Okay, only 10 might go beyond it, rest all get attenuated. If I send 100 into a liquid, a 50 of them might come out of it, rest of them would have got attenuated. If I take a gas, then it will allow around 80 to pass through it, and rest of them, this is an arbitrary number. I'm just telling that a gas will allow more X-rays to pass through it, a liquid will allow less X-rays to pass through it, a solid will allow almost the least X-rays to pass through it. Okay, so this will tell us that solid is a denser structure, so it is allowing less. Liquid is less denser, so it is allowing little more compared to the solid. Gas is least dense structure, so it is allowing the maximum X-ray to pass through it. Okay, this is the basic principle of the X-ray. Now what you have to understand now is, we had we have water, we have gas or air, then we have structures like bone. Okay, we have water, we have air, we have structures like bone, and bone is the densest structure we know, so it will allow the less X-rays to pass through it. Water is intermediate between air and bone, it will allow intermediate amount of X-rays to pass through it. Everyone keep your mind, will allow maximum X-ray to pass through it. Okay, so air will allow maximum X-ray to pass through it. It goes and hits the X-ray film. You would have, all of you would have seen X-ray film with the lungs, with bones, like which image that I have shown you. There are multiple X-rays that you would have seen. Now tell me how a air will look when the X-ray goes and hits the film. How a air looks, whether it will look white or whether it will look blacker. Come on,
Black.
answer.
Sir, it will look white.
Black.
Okay, so it will look white. One of them told it will look white, and one of them told it will look black. Now, who answered it will look white? Who answered? Don't worry, this we are all learning. You and I don't know a lot of things. I'm also learning. So you guys keep answering whatever you know. Okay. Who answered white?
Sir,
Okay.
Shivani Mishra.
Okay, Shivani Mishra. Now tell me, what happens when you pass X-ray to go through air? Will it allow to go pass through, or it will not allow the X-rays to pass through it?
Sir, it will allow.
It will allow the X-rays to pass through it. So what happened? X-ray is going through it and it is hitting the film. Okay. Now, when the X-ray hits the film, what happens to the color of the X-ray film? We just think of it, what it might happen. Don't worry if you are wrong. Okay, you don't know. Okay, fine. Who's the second person who answered it will turn black?
Sir, I'm Sirisha, sir.
Okay, now tell me, again, you also agree with that X-ray will pass through it, through the air, and all of them will go and hit the film. Now, what do you think the reaction will happen in the X-ray? The color will be changing. Okay. Now, for this, the basic understanding that we need to have is, okay, now the first question for both of you who have answered, what is the color of X-ray film before we expose it with the X-ray? Okay, this is a film before exposing it to the radiation. Okay, what is the color of the X-ray film? That's the first question. Okay, Shisha and Shivani, both of you, what is the color of X-ray before hitting the film?
Sir,
Is
it's
it
white. I got confused earlier.
okay? No problem. Okay, so it is usually whiter in color. Okay, it is usually whiter in color. Don't worry if you guys do mistakes, no problem. Okay, it is this point you have to remember. Before X-ray is exposed, the film is having whiter in color. Okay, film is always white in color. Now whenever X-ray comes and hits this film, there will be silver bromide and silver iodide in it, which will ionize to silver ions. Now these silver ions which are deposited as black dots. Okay, so you just have to know that what is the color of the X-ray film before being exposed. It is white to bluish tinge it will have. Okay, it is almost white, what we can say in layman words. And then whenever the X-ray hits it, it will undergo ionization of the film and it will turn blacker. Okay, so this is all that we need to know. Okay, now if we see this image, so this is the place where there is lung. Okay, this is the place where there is lung. The lung is appearing slightly blacker. Okay, so this area is appearing whiter. Why is this area appearing whiter? Can anyone tell me why is this area appearing whiter?
Fluid.
Yes, not clear. Yes, it is the liver. Okay, correct. I think you have told liver. So it is the liver which is present here. It's a denser structure, so it is appearing whiter. Okay, now what is the structure which is present here which is making it look whiter?
Spleen.
Spleen. Good, this is the spleen. Now I'll ask you one more question. What is the structure which is present here which is making it look blacker? What is present here which makes it look blacker? Now my question is, why is this area looking blacker? So anyone knows the answer?
I think fundus.
Air shadow.
Yes, it is an air shadow. Okay, but why is there an air shadow in this area? What will give the air shadow there? Someone told the answer. There will be fundal
Fundus
gas.
is there.
Okay, fundus of the stomach. We always take a chest X-ray in a erect position. Okay, that's what we call as PAV. I'll tell in detail when I'm talking about X-ray. So this is the fundal gas shadow. So this is how you approach an X-ray. Okay, this is how when you approach an X-ray. So there is a blacker thing. So you think, oh, there might be an air present there, so it is looking blacker. Okay. Now one more thing, if I ask you, okay, if there is fat and if there is water, okay, if there is fat and if there is water, which will be appearing more blacker out of these two or more whiter? Which will be more whiter out of water and fat? Come on, answer.
Water will be whiter.
Water will be whiter.
Whiter.
Good, water will be whiter. Why is this? Because fat is less denser. Okay, fat is less denser. If you put fat water, you take a glass of water, you put fat in it, fat will always float. Okay, now one of the experiment that we do in medicine is that whenever they do parotid resection, okay, this is required I also tell some vignettes about other topics also, which will be important for you guys. Whenever you do a parotid surgery, okay, how do I identify whether what I have resected? Well, it's a very small structure. How do I identify whether I have resected parotid itself? It will be having yellow in color, or if I have resected fat. Okay, so what we do is in the OT, you take whatever the structure that I have removed, you just put it in the water. If it sinks, it is not fat. So you are taken some soft tissue structure. So it's more likely to be a sorry, not parotid. I'm talking about parathyroid gland. Okay, I'm talking about the parathyroid gland. Sorry. Okay, whenever you resect a parathyroid gland which is present posterior to the thyroid gland, so we put this parathyroid gland in the water. If it sinks, then it is confirmed that it is a soft tissue structure. It is not the fat that we have resected. Okay, so that's a use of the same principle, the density difference. Okay, that's how the fat will be looking slightly blacker compared to the water. Now, if I tell you, so bone is looking very white. We can see the bones are looking very white. Then comes the soft tissues, which are looking less whiter. That is the soft tissues. And then comes our water, and then comes the fat. Now, can you see this area? This area, we can see the subcutaneous fat. We can see that below the skin and above the muzzle. So we can see this small area of black haze. This is nothing but the subcutaneous fat. Okay, subcutaneous fat will look slightly blacker, but it is not as black as hair, but it is not as white as muscular structure around. Okay, so that's how you identify air or soft tissue around the in an X-ray. Okay, so we have bone, then the soft tissue, then the water, then fat, and then air. So this is the order. And also remember that in an X-ray we can identify only bone, soft tissue, and water. Both will be looking as whiter, so we cannot differentiate that. Then we can see fat, then we can see air, then we can see metal. So if anyone asks you from today onwards, what are the densities that we see in an X-ray? That is, there are 5 densities that we see in an X-ray. That is metal, bone, soft tissue and water. Then there is fat. Then there is air. So these are the 5 densities that we can see in an X-ray, and all the diagnoses that we make are only because of these 5 densities. Okay, so this is only the clinical part that I'm talking today. Now let's see the physics of X-ray. Okay, now this is how an X-ray room will be present. This is how we always shield the examiner who does the X-ray, who take the recording of X-ray. There's an X-ray table on which there will be a film will be kept, and above the film we keep a X-ray tube, and we image the patient. And there will always be a lead shield, and there are different ranges of lead shield that we use. Okay, there are different, the thickness of this lead shield depends on the different type of modalities that we use. Okay, in low energy X-rays we use 1.7 millimeter of lead, 2 millimeter of lead we use in the CT rooms, and even in the high energy X-ray units. Okay, 2 mm equivalent glass we use in a CT machine or in an high energy X-ray rooms. Okay, remember that. Why we use lead? Because lead will stop the X-rays from passing through it. So that's how it reduces the exposure to the patient. Now, electromagnetic radiation. What is an electromagnetic radiation? It is nothing but a transport of energy through the space in the form of a electric and magnetic radiation. Why am I talking about electromagnetic radiation? Because X-ray is an electromagnetic radiation. Very simple question. What is the X-ray? What type of radiation is an X-ray? Is it a particulate matter? Is it electromagnetic radiation? Is it a sound wave, or is it a cosmic wave? Okay, so it is nothing but an electromagnetic radiation. Simple question, simple answer. Okay, now this is a very important date that you have to remember. 8th November is celebrated as World Radiology Day because William Conrad Roentgen discovered X-ray imaging on 8th November when he exposed his wife's hand. The he discovered X-ray on 8th of November. So that is celebrated as World Radiology Day. Okay. Now, electromagnetic radiation have a spectrum of rays, starting from the radio wave, microwave, infrared rays, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays. So the very simple question will come. Now, I'll tell you one thing, that is the frequency of the radiation of electromagnetic radiation keep on increasing as we go towards the right side, but the wavelength keep on decreasing as we go towards the right side. So the wavelength and frequency are inversely related. Okay, the frequency increases towards the right, wavelength decreases towards the right. Now, one thing, if I'll ask you, which of this radiation, which of this electromagnetic spectrum will have highest energy? Can anyone tell me which of these will have highest energy? Energy is directly proportional to frequency. Good. Energy is directly proportional to frequency. So tell me the answer. What is having highest energy in this? Okay, it is always the gamma rays. Good. Okay, so very simple question, MCQ. Which of these electromagnetic radiation is having maximum energy? They'll give visible light, ultraviolet rays, X-rays, gamma rays. Okay, we will all think it's an X-ray because that's what we have been using. That's what we have been studying in medicine. So it is the gamma rays. Okay, remember that it is the gamma rays which is having the maximum energy, and this is how electromagnetic radiation, which will have electric rays and electric radiation and the magnetic radiation, which are perpendicular to each other. Any charged particle will have a electric field around it. If this charged particle is moving, it will have a magnetic field also around it. Okay, so remember this is useful for even MRI. Okay, in MRI we want a magnetic field which is created by a moving magnetic field. So like this, if you have a moving charge, if there is a moving charge, it will have a magnetic field around it along with the electric field. So any charged particle will have a electric field around it, moving particle will have a magnetic field around it. Now, any accelerating charge like this will produce an electromagnetic radiation. Acceleration or deceleration is responsible for the electromagnetic radiation. So how an X-ray is produced? By an acceleration and deceleration. That's one of the way of production of X-rays. Okay, so what is an electromagnetic radiation? It is nothing but the energy which is traveling through the space, which is having electric and magnetic field which are perpendicular to each other. Okay, now whole thing is, whenever we have a X-ray tube, we have to create a vacuum inside it. Okay, we create a vacuum inside it. So X-ray tube is a vacuum tube with a cathode and an anode, in which electrons are ejected from the cathode. It will go and hit the anode. Whenever it hits the anode, it produces the X-ray. Okay, whenever it hits the anode, it produces X-ray. So that's the basic principle. Now we know that any atom, okay, to understand how the X-ray is produced, we need to understand how an atom is present. We have the center of the atom, we have nucleus which contains protons, which contains neutrons, and this is what is the nucleus made up of. Whereas the electrons are the negatively charged particles which will be rotating around the nucleus. Now, very important point here that we need to know is the inner shell electrons are of lower energy electrons. Outer shell electrons are higher energy electrons. So what is the tendency of electrons, whether it to be in the inner shell or outer shell? Whether it want to be in an inner shell or outer shell?
Outer shell.
See, anything in the nature, it always want to be in the lowermost energy. If you keep the water in a tank, yes, good. Okay, I want people to attempt. That's how we all learn. I learn, you learn. I also make mistake. You also make mistake. Everyone should make mistake. Don't hesitate to answer. Okay, I don't know who you are, so even if you do mistakes, no problem. Okay, it is always, every matter always want to be at the lowermost energy. Okay, so they always want to be in the inner shell. Okay, every electron will be trying to be in an inner shell because they always want to be in the lowermost energy. Okay, outer shell electrons will be having slightly higher energy, so they don't want to be in an outer shell because it is having higher energy. Okay, water in a tank never want to be on top. If you make a small hole, it want to fall down because down there is lower energy. So that's a principle. Remember that. Okay. So there is a higher energy and lower energy shells. Inner shells are always lower energy. Now, there is a electron. I told in a X-ray tube, the electrons are produced in the cathode. It will go and hit the anode. Now we have here the electrons which are produced. Okay, we have electrons which are produced here. Now this will go and hit the anode. Now what will happen inside the atom of an anode? When it goes near the nucleus, whenever it goes near the nucleus, the positively charged protons will produce some acceleration to these electrons. Okay, whenever the electrons move and it goes closer to the nucleus, it will produce some acceleration to the electrons. So whenever there is an acceleration of a charged particle, what did I tell you? It will produce an X-ray. Okay, that's how the X-ray is produced, and this type of X-ray is called as the Bremsstrahlung X-ray. Okay, this type of X-ray is called as a Bremsstrahlung X-ray. Now this will be an MCQ. What type of X-rays are produced in an X-ray tube? This is one type of the X-ray, that is the Bremsstrahlung X-ray. Okay, the next thing, what else it can do if there is a moving electron? So this is how randomly the electrons are moving, and it will be accelerated by this nucleus, and this will cause production of X-ray. Will all the electrons face the same amount of acceleration by this nucleus? Will all the electrons face the same acceleration, or is it different electrons experience different acceleration? It will be
Different acceleration.
different, will experience different. Why is this? Because different will be moving at a different distance from the nucleus. It's random, right? So random it will be moving. So different will have different distance from the nucleus. So that's why the X-rays that we have produced here are of different energies. It might be having from almost 0.1 to the maximum energy that electrons are accelerating at. Okay, so they are of different energies. So that's what we have to remember. The Bremsstrahlung X-rays are produced are at different energies. Now sometimes these electrons have one likely to hit the inner shell electrons, okay, or any electrons. It can hit the any electrons, but inner shell is having the lowest energy, outer shell is having the higher energy. So displacing the outer shell electron is difficult, but it can displace the inner shell electron. Now whenever it displaces an inner shell electron, what will happen? What will happen to the atom? What will happen to the atom? Whenever an electron is ejected, what will happen to the atom? It will undergo ionization. Okay, it will undergo ionization. So there will be an ionization of an atom. Okay, remember that whenever it hits an electron, there will be ionization of an atom. Now what will happen? Now if the inner shell electron is ionized and inner shell electron is removed, it has ionized the atom. Now what will happen to the outer shell electron? Tell me, what will outer shell electron try to do now?
Go inside.
Go inside, because
So it
everyone
will go
wants
into
to,
the
yes, in the position of this, because each shell can have so many number of electrons. Inner shell can have only 2 electrons. Now one is removed, now only one is remaining, so it tries to go inside. Now whenever it tries to go inside, what happens to the energy? What happens to the energy? It was of higher energy here. What happens when it moves inside? The
Releases the
energy,
energy.
yes, it releases the energy. Now when it releases the energy, it will be released as an X-ray. So this type of X-ray is called as characteristic X-ray. So this type of X-ray is called as a characteristic X-ray. So we have seen there are two types of X-ray which is produced in an X-ray tube, which is a Bremsstrahlung X-ray and characteristic X-ray. Very simple question was asked: which type of X-ray is predominantly produced in a conventional radiograph? Option was characteristic X-ray, Bremsstrahlung X-ray, photoelectric effect, Compton scattering. So what is the answer? What is the answer? What type of X-ray is predominantly produced in an X-ray in a X-ray tube?
Characteristic.
Bremsstrahlung.
Okay. See, so it is like this. So how commonly a moving electron can hit another moving electron? Is that common, or randomly experiencing the nuclear force is common? Which is common? Which can be more common? Is it the experiencing of the energy by the nucleus is common, or is it the electron hitting one more moving electron? So example is it easy for us to shoot at a given random space? Okay, I'll give you an area. Okay, one goal post is there, football goal post. I ask you to shoot into that. Okay, most of your the bullet will be going inside the post. Now the second option I'll give you, there is a moving bird. There is a moving bird. I'll ask you to shoot. Okay, which is easier? It's always the shooting into the post. Okay, large post, you're anywhere you can hit. So always the Bremsstrahlung X-ray will be produced whenever the electrons are moving anywhere. But a characteristic X-ray will be produced only it hits an electron inside. So it has to be the one-to-one interaction. So that is less common. So that's why the production of X-ray, if you see, it's always the Bremsstrahlung X-rays which is predominantly produced. And if you see in a graph, this is how a Bremsstrahlung X-ray looks. That is, it will be produced of different energy. Okay, it will be produced of different energy. Okay, if I've given energy of 150 kilovolt, we'll have from 0 to 150 different energy X-rays are produced at different level. So this is how the Bremsstrahlung X-rays are produced. But some of the electrons will go and hit the inertial electrons. That's when we get the characteristic X-ray. But this type of the reaction is very less common. So that's what we need to remember. Okay, so most common type of X-ray that is produced in an X-ray tube is a Bremsstrahlung X-ray. Characteristic. Now, what is the speciality of the characteristic X-ray? Why the name characteristic? Can anyone tell me why the name characteristic? See, inertial electron is the lowest, outer is the highest, and the energy in each shell is specific for every element. Okay, it is specific for every element. Okay, it is specific. So that's why the name characteristic. The difference between the two shells is fixed. The difference between two shells is fixed. That's why it is called as a characteristic radiation. Are you getting it? If you have any doubt, please ask me on the spot. Okay, don't worry. If you have any doubt, please ask me on the spot. Okay, everything, it has to be very clear for you guys, because this is very simple MCQs. So any MCQs on this you have to answer. Okay, so now one more thing. This is the cathode, this is an anode. Now cathode will produce electrons which will be going and hitting the anode, and it will be producing the X-rays. Okay, so this is how normally X-ray is produced. Now what happened is, because of repeatedly hitting the anode started getting damaged early. Okay, the tensile strength of anode was less, so it was getting damaged early. So what they did is, they started introducing a rotating anode. The modern X-rays are having rotating anode. So if they ask you what type of anode is used, now rotating anodes are used to prevent the damage to the anode because of repeated exposure to the X-ray, and this will lead to the loss of the heat which is produced as radiation. Now if there are 100 X-rays are hitting the anode, only 1% is responsible for production of X-ray. 99% will cause heat production. So that's why we have introduced this rotating anode, so that heat can also be released by radiation. So heat will be released by radiation, convection, and conduction. By all the methods, the heat will be released in a modern X-ray tube. And what type of X-ray the anode we have now? Rotating anode is what we have now. Okay, everyone clear with this? Okay, one more thing what will happen is, whenever we release the electron, it will go and hit this rotating anode, and sometimes it can produce X-ray in random direction, because the electrons are moving in random direction. So what I can do, I can focus it at particular direction. How can I focus an electron? Electron is negatively charged. So if I keep a focusing plate which is negatively charged, it will focus all the electrons into the anode, and it will produce an X-ray. Okay, so this is nothing but focusing cup. Okay, we use a focusing cup to focus all the electrons into the anode proper. So that's all. There's nothing much you need to know in that. Okay, so we have an cathode, we have an anode. We put a potential difference across this, usually minus 75 to plus 75 kilovolt. Okay, it's a very high potential. In our house, what voltage we have? 110 to 240 kilo voltage. Okay, depending on the country. Okay, this is voltage. Now what we are talking here is kilo voltage, that is 1,000 times our house's thing. Okay, so that is how much energy that we have to use in an X-ray tube. Okay, so again, whenever we pass so much of energy, so we get electrons moving from the cathode to anode. Okay, this is not important. We maintain vacuum is what is important. We have the focusing cup. Now this is how the filament will be there, and both filament as well as, okay, this is important. Now this is very important. Now the filament is made up of tungsten. Okay, the cathode filament is made up of tungsten. How do you, what is the molecular name of the tungsten? W is the how we represent the tungsten. Tungsten is what the cathode is made up of tungsten. Now why we use tungsten? Because what we have to do whenever we want to produce electrons, we have to eject electrons out of this the cathode. What we have to do, we have to heat the cathode at least to 220 degrees Celsius. So why do I use tungsten? Because tungsten will not melt when I heat it up to 220 degrees Celsius. Tungsten has more than 3000 degrees Celsius is the melting point. So even if I heat it up to 2200 degrees Celsius, it will not produce, it will not melt down. That's why I use tungsten as my cathode. Okay. So how a tungsten filament will produce electrons in an X-ray tube? Now this, I connect this tungsten to electric current. Now when I pass electric current, the tungsten filament gets heated up. The tungsten filament gets heated up. Whenever the tungsten filament gets heated up, the energy is taken up by the electrons inside. Now, whenever the electrons get more and more energy, they will leave the inner shell. They will come to the outer shell. They will go to the outer shell, because as the energy increases, they will go to the higher energy state, that is outer shells. Now, when it goes beyond the outermost shell, it will be ejected out. So this is how the electrons are ejected out, and this is called as thermoionic emission. Why is it called thermoionic emission? Thermo, heat, ionic, it will ionize the tungsten, and it is the emission. It's a thermoionic emission. Very simple. MCQ. This is MCQ. How is all of the following is responsible for the electron ejection from the cathode? First one, Bremsstrahlung reaction. Second one, characteristic radiation. Third one, Compton scattering. Fourth one, thermoionic emission. See, very simple. They confuse us with lot of words, but only thing we just need to know is it is thermoionic emission. Very simple. This MCQ was asked before. Okay, so very simple MCQs. You just need to know the terms. Okay, so this is a thermoionic emission. How the electron is ejected outwards. Okay. Now, both anode and cathode, both are made up of tungsten. Now I showed the cathode rotating anode, that was also made up of tungsten. So the question is, what is tungsten made up of? Aluminium, iron, tungsten, or copper? Okay, it is the tungsten. Okay, very simple it is. We just need to know both anode and cathode are made up of tungsten. We know why tungsten is used as cathode, because it has high melting point. Why is tungsten used as cathode? We know because it's a high melting point. Why is tungsten used as an anode? Because it is having high tensile strength. You hit more and more, the amount of damage it is taking is less compared to other metals. Now still, this melting point and this tensile strength is not enough for us to have a good X-ray machine which will last for 10 years, 15 years. It doesn't last for long, even with tungsten. So what do? I need to make this tungsten alloy more tensilely strong, and it has more melting point. So to make it more strong, what do? I add rhenium to it. Okay, I add rhenium to it, to the tungsten, to make it more tensile strength, and I add thorium to the cathode tungsten to make it a good melting point, to increase its melting point. Everyone's clear till now? So also anode is rotating for the faster cooling. Mnemonic is tar. Okay, anode is made up of tungsten and rhenium. Anode is made up of tungsten and rhenium. Okay, but why all this we need to understand. Okay, everyone's clear till now? Everyone's clear? Are you guys
Yes, sir.
okay? Any doubts? Okay, so one more thing that we can understand, we should understand now is this is how a X-ray tube was, and this is the cathode, this is the anode. We the electrons go and hit the anode, we get an X-ray. Now this X-ray, some of them might go randomly spread everywhere and come out of the X-ray tube. To prevent any of this scattered radiation, the X-ray tube is shielded. It is shielded using a lead jacket. Okay, it's shielded using a lead jacket. So a X-ray tube is shielded using a lead jacket to prevent the scattered X-rays from going out. Okay, and wherever the X-ray is coming out, this is called as a port window. Okay, this is called as a port window. Now, okay, now one more thing that we have to remember is through this port window, we keep something called as aluminium. What is aluminium? Aluminium is a metal. Why do you keep an aluminium? It is acting like a filter. Okay, why do I need to filter X-rays? Now imagine I am passing, so this is a human being, his X-ray has been done. So I am passing 1000 X-rays. Okay, I'm passing 1000 X-rays. Out of these 1000, the 500 of them are just getting attenuated here itself. Okay, just getting attenuated in the skin and subcutaneous tissue. Okay, remaining 500, some of them will reach the X-ray film. Some of them will get attenuated in the middle. Okay, but 500 of them has attenuated only in the skin. Now what has happened because of this? What has happened? This 500 X-rays that which are not going deeper, which are just in the skin itself getting deposited, these are of low energy X-rays. These are the low energy X-rays. So what will happen when there is low energy X-rays? They will not take part in image formation. See, they don't play any big role in energy, the image formation. Any part you expose any part of the body, thinner part, thicker part, a very thin layer of tissue also, it will just get attenuated. So it will never reach the X-ray film. So what is the use of this low energy X-rays? What is the use of this low energy X-rays? Tell me, what is the use of this low energy X-rays? These low energy X-rays are of no use. Okay, that's why you are not telling, because they are of no use, but they are depositing in the tissue. So what is happening? They are causing the radiation exposure to the patient, but they are not having any benefits. So do I want this low energy X-rays? I don't want this low energy X-ray. So what do? I keep a filter which will remove the low energy X-rays, and it will allow only the higher energy X-rays to pass through it. So that is the use of the filter. Now we need to know where it is kept. It is kept soon after the X-ray tube. We keep the filter, so it will not allow any low energy X-rays to pass through it. Now what will happen? So these X-rays will go and hit the patient now, but I want to image only this small part in the body. Okay, small child has come with, I want to image only the elbow of the child. So only this part I want to image, but X-ray is going in all the direction. Okay, it is coming from a point, so it is divergent X-ray, so it will go everywhere. But to focus it on the particular part that I need, what should I do? I should keep something which stops the X-rays which is going other way. So I use something called as collimators and cones. So these collimators and cones will not allow the X-rays to go anywhere other than the part that we require. Okay, so this is the use of the collimators and cones. So the question will be, which of the following is used to reduce the low energy X-rays? Okay, which of the following will reduce the low energy X-rays? Option is collimator, cone, filter, grid. What is the option? What is the answer now?
Filter.
It is the filter. Good. All of the following causes decreased radiation exposure to the patient, except option aluminium, cone, then collimator, grid. Which is the answer? All of the following reduces the patient exposure of radiation except
Grid.
Yeah, see, you don't know the answer, but you can guess the answer because you know what is the use of these three things. You know these three can cause reduced exposure to the patient, and you don't know what this is. Okay, you don't know what this is, but still you can answer. So this is how a NEET is all about. Okay, this is one small advice from me. NEET is very easy. Only thing is you have to focus on what you know. Okay, what you know. Okay, what you know will give answers of what you don't know. Okay, what you know will give answers for what you don't know. Very important. Okay, don't think, oh, there is a grand test coming, I don't want to give a grand test, I haven't finished studying. Wrong. You use whatever little knowledge you have to answer whatever you don't know. And because radiology is a small subject, but there are a lot of vast subjects, so everywhere you have to use this technique. Okay, use whatever you know, and don't be hesitant in answering these online classes and any classes, even in your college classes, because more than amount of number of time you do mistakes in classes, lesser you'll do the same mistake in exam. Okay, always be happy to tell wrong answers. Okay, I was of that kind, I always answering wrong so that I learn. Okay, so always try to answer wrong so that you will learn better. Okay, so next thing, so I used a filter which reduced the low energy x-rays from hitting the patient, so reduce the exposure to the patient. And then there is patient here, and behind the patient I have kept something here. Okay, behind the patient I have kept something here. So this is nothing but grid. Okay, grid, it has multiple lines, that's why it's called grid. Okay, like a grill, it is nothing but grid. Now what does this grid do? I'll explain you what a grid does. Is normally this is how a x-ray goes. Okay, this is how the x-ray goes, and if I keep a patient here, some of the x-rays won't reach, some of the x-rays will reach. But sometimes what will happen, when the x-ray is going like this, it will hit something and it gets deviated. Okay, it hits something, it gets deviated. Now what will happen if this deviated x-ray, what we call as a scattered x-ray, if it hits the film, what will happen to the film? If the scattered x-ray hits the film, what will happen to the film if a scattered x-ray hits the film? It will fog the film. Okay, it will cause artifact. So do I need this scattered x-ray to hit the film? Do I need this scattered x-ray to hit the film?
No, sir.
No,
Yes or
sir.
no? No,
No,
you
sir.
don't want it to hit the film. Okay, so what I do, I know x-rays are usually going in like this in a diverging pattern, so I keep a multiple lead lines which are parallel to the x-rays. Okay, I keep multiple lead lines which are parallel to the x-rays. Now what happened? So when I keep these multiple lead lines which are parallel to the x-rays, now the x-ray that I am sending are going parallel to it, so it will go and pass and hit the film. Okay, now if in case there is a deviation from this path, okay, a scattered ray will go like this, so it will be stopped by this lead line. Okay, if there is one more scattered which is going in this direction, again it will be stopped by this lead line. That's how a grid stops the scattered radiation. Now the very simple question is, all of the following will stop which of the following will stop the scattered radiation hitting the film? The options will be filter, cone, collimator, grid. Okay, this is a very simple question. Which of the following will stop the scattered radiation from hitting the film?
Grid.
Answer, it's a grid. Very simple. Okay, this is how I'm telling you. This is very simple. You just need to know the facts. That's all. Okay, you guys try noting down whatever the important points are. Okay, now we reached till the X-ray has reached hit the patient, gone beyond the patient. Now it is hitting the film. Okay, now the film is containing two components. This is the actual film, and then there is a fluorescent screen. This is the fluorescent screen. This is the actual film. It is made up of, I told, silver bromide and silver iodide. Only thing you need to remember is, whenever X-ray hits the silver bromide and silver iodide, it will ionize the silver bromide and silver iodide, and it will convert itself into black in color. Okay, so that's how the image is formed. Okay, so we are painting black. This is like charcoal painting. If you guys know charcoal painting, we have a white sheet. Only thing we have color we have now is the charcoal. Okay, we have to give all the shades that we want in the charcoal. It will give only black shades, and that's how the image is formed. The same principle. Okay, so all the radiographers are charcoal artists of X-ray. Okay, maybe X-ray artists we can call them. Okay, now what happens whenever I expose this? Okay, there is a fluorescent screen, not important for you guys. I'm just telling you for your information. That's all. Okay, whenever X-ray, X-rays of slightly low, like very less X-rays will be hitting the film. To make it what multiply it, we just keep this fluorescent screen. So whenever X-ray hits this fluorescent screen, no, this will produce light. Okay, this is called as fluorescence. There are two things: fluorescence and phosphorescence. Anyone knows the difference? What is between fluorescence and phosphorescence? Fluorescence is when you stimulate it, it produces light. Immediately it produces light. What is phosphorescence? When you can stimulate it, it will be potential to produce light, but we need to wait for some time. After some time, by some other technique, we can produce light from this material, that is called phosphorescence. Not important, just for knowledge. What you have to remember here is there is a fluorescent screen which will produce light. This light will also hit the X-ray film and it makes it blacker. So what does it tell? X-ray is hitting the fluorescent screen which is producing light and which is converting the X-ray film black. Now if I expose this X-ray film to regular light, what will happen to it? It will turn black and it will get spoiled. It will be painting. So it's like random environment is causing the image. Okay, so that's what is bad. That's why we never used to produce a X-ray film in a bright light. So we always used to use a red light or amber colored light to prevent the X-ray from getting spoiled. Okay, so always we used to have a dark room. That's why the radiologists always stay in the dark room, because in olden days the X-ray film used to get exposed. This is like our olden days camera which had that Polaroid cameras which we should not expose to light. When you used to expose to light, it used to get spoiled. So similarly, even the X-ray film used to get spoiled. So we used to always keep it in a dark space, and we used to develop the image, and then we can get it out in the environment. So that's how the film used to work. Now, what is film made up of? Silver bromide, silver iodide. Now, when I expose it with X-ray, fluorescent screen becomes bright. It will produce light, and that will turn the X-ray film black. And this is how our image is formed. Very simple question. X-ray exposing the film will turn the film into white color, will turn the film into black color. What is
Black.
the answer? Black color. Okay, very simple it is. Okay, so this is how the X-ray is produced. Now, how do I? So there is a fat patient, there is a thin patient. I can't expose every patient same. Now, in a fat patient, there is a fat patient and there is a thin patient. I allowed 100 X-rays to pass through a fat patient, only 10 might reach. Okay, so only 10 X-rays are making the image. But in a thin patient, if I send 100 X-rays, there is 50 X-rays reaching the film. So more X-rays. So either it should not be too much X-rays, it should not be too low X-rays. Okay, you can't put a very bright paint or very light paint. It should be optimum. So how do I control the number of X-rays? Now, can you tell me how can I control the number of X-rays produced? Number of X-rays depends on what? After telling all this, number of X-rays depends on what?
Heating of the cathode filament.
Yes, heating of the cathode filament. Okay, number of X-rays depends on the heating up of cathode filaments and release of number of electrons. Okay, release of number of electrons. Okay, that is very important. So that is what is given by the milliampere second. So milliampere second is nothing but milliampere is a current. Second is for how long I am passing this current to the cathode. Okay, so cathode has some current. So this cathode filament has current passing through it. Now this will heat up this filament. Now how much current? If I pass more current, more heating up. If I pass less current, less heating up. And if I use for longer period of time, it is if I use longer period of time, it is again getting heated up more. So more electrons. So this number of electrons is given by MAS, okay, milliampere second. Now tell me, so electrons are present here, okay, outside the cathode. Will it move by itself? Will it move by itself towards the anode spontaneously? Can an electron move spontaneously in the space? What it needs? If an
No, sir.
electron has to move, if an electron has to move from point A to point B, what does it need?
Potential energy.
Yes, potential energy. What in current, what is it called as? Potential difference is called as
Volts.
voltage. Correct. Okay, volts. Okay, the potential difference is called volts. Okay, now if I give volts to this electron, what will happen to the electron? It will start moving. Okay, so what has happened to the energy of the electron? Anything which moves, what does it get? Any object, if it starts moving, what does it get? It gets what energy?
Electro.
Kinetic energy. Good attempt. Okay, kinetic energy. Any
Kinetic
moving
energy.
thing has kinetic energy. Where did this kinetic energy come from? The voltage that I have given. The voltage that I have given has given the kinetic energy to these electrons. Now electrons energy is dependent on the kinetic energy, which is dependent on the voltage that I give. Okay, this much is clear. Now X-rays are produced of different energy. Okay, X-rays are produced of different energy. Okay, so this energy has to come from somewhere. So where does the X-ray get their energy from? Where does the X-ray get their energy from?
Battery.
From the, yes, repeat. Pardon, I couldn't hear. Where does the
Battery.
Yeah, but how is that converting into an X-ray energy? After you, I have taught you everything. Now you tell me how the energy is going into the X-ray. X-ray is a collection of energy which is traveling through space. Now how did it get that energy? What was happening? This fast-moving electron, which is rich in energy. Why it is rich in energy? Because of the kinetic energy that it got from the potential difference I have applied. It's rich in energy. Electron is going and hitting the anode, will release its energy as X-ray. Okay, different ways of releasing. Bremsstrahlung, the characteristics are the different ways of releasing, but all the energy this X-ray has caused, that is Bremsstrahlung, the change in acceleration. If it is producing an X-ray, where is the energy coming from? This electron. If it is hitting the electron, inertial electron, and ejecting it out, where is the energy coming from? This electron. So whatever the X-ray, X-ray is produced, it is dependent on the energy of this electron. Understand? Everyone's clear or any doubt? Everyone's clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. I think you all have to be little bit of Josh should be there. Like I can hear very low sound and like one person only talking. Okay. Everyone keep answering, right? Okay. So electrons are responsible for the energy in an X-ray, and this electron is getting energy from a potential difference that I have produced, that is nothing but the voltage. Okay, because I'm what is the what a potential difference that I'm applying across the anode and cathode? Is it in volts or is it in kilovolts? It is in
Kilovolt.
kilovolts. Good, it is in
Kilovolts.
kilovoltage. Okay, so this kilovoltage potential that I have applied to an electron is deciding the energy of X-ray. Okay, now did you understand about this? Now the X-ray has two things. One is number of X-ray, one is energy of X-ray. Okay, number of X-ray is dependent on Number
Electrons ejected.
number of electrons, that is milliampere second, which I can control as a technician or as a radiologist. What I can control is the milliampere second. I can control how long I can keep. So if I increase the milliampere second, increases the number of electrons, so increases the number of X-rays. Remember, number of X-rays. Clear? Now if I want to increase the energy of X-ray produced, what can I do?
Voltage and increase the
Yes,
voltage.
if I can increase the voltage, so that's how the kVp comes in handy. Okay, so I can control two things in an X-ray machine. I can control two things, kVp and MAS. Okay, now next question is, if I increase the MAS, what will happen to the X-ray film? If I increase the MAS, what will happen to the X-ray film? It will become,
Blackish. More blackish.
yes, good, it will become more blackish. Okay, it will become more blackish. Okay, now if I increase the kVp, what will happen to the X-ray which is passing through the body?
More penetration capacity, better
Yes,
imaging.
the more penetration capacity. Understand? You guys are getting it how it all works. Now, if I increase the penetration, okay, if I increase the penetration, what will happen to contrast? If I increase the penetration, what will happen to the contrast?
It will get
Can
better.
I?
It will become nice and better.
It will get better. So that's your answer. But I wanted that answer. That's why I asked that. Okay. So there is fat. Okay, and there is soft tissue. Okay, so which will allow more x-rays to pass through it? Which
Fat.
will allow more x-rays to pass? It
Fat.
is the fat which will allow more x-rays to pass through it. So imagine fat has allowed 9 x-rays to pass through it. Okay, fat has allowed 9 x-rays to pass through it. Soft tissue allowed 7 x-rays to pass through it. What happened to remaining 3 x-rays here? Remaining 3 x-ray, it is stopped here because it doesn't have enough energy to cross. What happened to the 1 x-ray here? It couldn't pass. Now if I increase the energy, it will allow all 10. Okay, fat will allow all 10. What will happen here? It will allow 8. Okay, now if I increase still more, what is happening? This is allowing 10, this is allowing 9. If I still increase, what is happening? This is also allowing 10, this is also allowing 10. So what has happened now?
Okay, contrast is decreased.
Decreased. Okay, clear? You got it?
Yes.
Okay, so very simple. The question will be, all of the following will, which of the following will cause increase in the contrast? Okay, I increase the KVP or decrease the KVP. Which will increase the contrast?
Decrease in KVP.
Good.
Decrease.
Decrease in the KVP. But there is again a twist in the story. Now I have two patients. Okay, this is one patient who is fat. Okay, sorry for the diagram. And this is the second patient who is thin. Now, if I use low energy X-rays, what will happen? None of the X-rays will reach the film. So what I should do in a fat patient for the X-rays to reach the film? What I
Increase
should do?
the, yeah,
Yes,
milliampere second.
I increase the KVP. I
Okay.
increase the KVP. Okay, I just increase the KVP. You only told more penetration, so it will go. Okay, it will penetrate and go and hit the film. Okay, more penetration. Okay, increase the KVP. More penetration is there. It will hit the film. It will. You can get the image. So that is how we use the KVP in a fat patient. In a thin patient, I reduce the KVP. So what will happen now? Contrast is getting better. So now the problem is, in a fat patient, I have increased the KVP. Okay, in a fat patient, I have increased the KVP. What happened to the contrast now?
It's worsened.
It is reduced. Okay. Now the question was, one of the question was, in a fat patient, I want to increase the contrast. So what should I do?
Number of electrons.
Yeah, we should increase the current.
Yes, good number of electrons. We increase the number of electrons. Okay. So example, okay, there is fat and there is soft tissue. What we told was, if you pass 10, how much did it allow? 9 it allowed. Whereas when I passed, what was this soft tissue? I allowed 10. How much it passed? That time I forgot. What did I give? 9
7.
and, okay, 7. Okay, 7. Now what is the difference between these two? 9 and 7 is 2. Okay, 2 x-rays is the difference here between these two. Imagine if I make it 100 x-rays. Now how much will fat allow? It's proportional, right? So it is 90 and 70. See the difference now? It will become 20 x-ray will be the difference. Okay, that's how the difference of x-ray which is passing through will improve when we increase the milliampere second. Okay, now the understood. Everyone's clear with this? Everyone's clear with this?
Yes, sir.
If you have
Sir.
doubt, just ask me. Okay, I'll repeat it. If you guys have doubt, just ask me. I'll repeat it. Now the question was, what are the following will increase the contrast? First option was increase the KVP. Second option was decrease the KVP. Third option was Increase MAS. What is your answer?
Decrease KVP.
Answer is D. Why is answer D?
Both B and C.
Yes, answer is B and C. So this is what I tell you. Even if you don't know the answer, you know the answer is D. Okay. So that's how you should analyze every question. Don't just see, okay, options are there. Just, yeah, I know this is the answer. See, again, if you read only this much, if you read only this much, you will tick this and go for the next question. Don't see the next option. It is increase in MAS. This is also correct. So once you reach till here, you know the answer. You don't have to see the next option also. It will be the D. But never do that. Sometimes they will ask you to go for the which is the best answer. The best answer will be the KVP. Okay. Decrease in the KVP is the best answer. Clear? How the contrast is controlled. Okay, so that's about the KVP and MAS. I think that's what I have explained. Okay, now if I increase the KVP, what will happen? The energy, what will happen to the energy? Will increase.
Increase?
Will the quantity change?
No.
Okay.
No.
There usually no, okay. It is no change, but practically there will be little change, but you can ignore it. Okay, for NEET you can ignore it. Just don't see this slide, please. Okay, it will increase. I'll tell you if you want to know. I'll tell you what happens. This is the cathode. It has produced electrons. Okay. Now what happened is the number of electron produced outside the cathode is dependent on what? On the MAS. But all of these electrons are present where? It's in the cathode. Okay, it is present in the cathode. Okay. Now this electron will prevent further electrons from coming out because negative repel. Okay, that's one thing. Now what will happen? If this electron has to go to the other side, it has to get the potential energy. Okay. More and more I push the electron this side, more and more electron can eject from outside, inside. Okay. So KVP can increase the electrons little bit. Just keep in mind, KVP can increase the number of electrons, but which is the main factor which is increasing the number of X-rays? It is MAS. Okay. Just ignore this for your need. This is not important. Just ignore this quantity. But other than that, in the MAS, will it have any effect on the energy of an electron? Does MAS has any effect on X-ray energy? Energy of an X-ray?
No.
No twist in this. Okay, there is no okay, there is no change. But will it have the number of electrons? Will it increase?
Yes.
Number of X-rays? Yes. So number of X-ray increases. Now next thing is filter. Will it have factor on the energy? Does it change the energy in an X-ray?
Only high energy can pass. So
Okay,
omitting
only
low energy.
yeah. So it will remove the low energy. So the quality of X-ray improves. Okay. So this is not the energy, it's the quality of X-ray improves. Okay. So this is actually quality. For making you guys easy, I have written energy, but higher energy X-ray is only allowing it. So the quality improves. Okay. This was these are the things I have never asked, but then they might ask you. Okay. Just understand that the higher energy is coming out. Quality of the X-ray is coming. We need only higher energy. So that is the quality. Okay. Will it have any effect on the quantity? Number of X-rays?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it will decrease.
Decrease. Good. Okay. So very simple. You have understood everything. Okay. So that's till now whatever we discussed the film, right? Whatever the film I told, which is made up of silver bromide, silver iodide. So this film is the olden days. Okay. This is how the olden cameras were there. Now we have come to a kind of little digital world. So the first digital X-ray film was this, which was called as computerized radiograph. Okay. The computerized radiograph uses a cassette, okay, which is containing a barium fluoride bromide European dope. Not, you don't have to remember, but I'll just explain you how exactly it works. You just see and you just enjoy it. That's all. Okay. So there are X-ray will go and hit the cassette. In the cassette there is some chemical in which electrons are present. So they will be going to a higher energy state. Okay, from a valency bond to conduction bond. You don't have to remember that, but it will go to higher energy state. So all the X-ray that I have given, will go to this chemical and it will go in an excited in a higher energy state. Now what I do, I take this cassette, everything is happening inside the cassette. The cassette will not allow light to pass inside it. That's the advantage. So I can carry this cassette entire hospital to all the wards, everywhere I can carry this cassette, and then I can take it back to the radiology department. I put it in the cassette reader. What happens in the cassette reader? There is a laser light which will pass through it. Whenever this laser passes, it will stimulate these electrons, and these electrons will go back to its original state, ejecting the light out. Okay, whatever the energy that it was it has captured, no, by the X-ray, it will release it as light, and this light will be the image that is seen using this photomultiplier tube. Okay, that's how the computerized radiograph is. Okay, so in this we have a cassette, so we can, you just understand the concept. So what does that tell? This tell me that I can carry this cassette anywhere. I can take it to the ICU, I can take an X-ray in the ICU, I can take it in any ward and do an ICU. But olden days we could never do that. We are supposed to maintain a dark room. That was a computerized radiograph. Okay, so this is advantage of that. Now recently we came up with a digital radiograph. Okay, digital radiograph is all about, it is like how our mobile phones. Okay, you take a image, immediately you see the image in the screen. You don't have to carry it, you don't have to put it in a reader, nothing. It's everything is connected. Okay, it is like the wire will be connected to the monitor, the X-ray machine will be present in the center. So this whenever I expose the X-rays, that will form an energy by different mechanisms. There are different types, you don't have to remember. I'm just telling you how a digital radiograph works. The present day hospitals all have this digital radiograph. You just have to make the patient stand there, expose the X-ray, radiologist is reporting the X-ray within 5 seconds. Okay, so that's how a digital radiograph, this will increase the speed at which we are imaging in the radiology. So digital radiography, technician is doing scans, radiologist reporting full high speed, and all 1,000 bedded hospital, 1,500 bedded hospitals all have digital radiograph because they are super fast. Okay, so that's about the digital radiograph. You just have to know that it exists. Okay, so that's about it. So should I continue now, or should I can't take this in next class? Should I tell the interaction of X-ray and finish it off, or should I continue it with the next class?
Continue with next class, sir.
Okay, everyone's tired, so I think we'll continue it in the next class. Okay, so if you guys have any doubts, you can ask me now. Rest we can continue in the next class. So any doubts?
No doubt, sir.
Density that you give of the film.
Okay. Okay, then no doubts. Then I hope you guys like the class. Yes, Sukubai, it's similar to gold foil experiment that you learnt in physics. Okay, thank you everyone. Keep
Thank you,
studying.
sir.
Yes.